All right, so we're going to be talking about how to complete this balance packet. So there's a couple of things that are covered here that are important to know. The first is symmetrical balance. So that's like in the image here, when we have an image that is more or less symmetrical on two sides of a line. So for this example, if we bisect this guy here and straight up with the middle, is more or less symmetrical on both sides. So that's the first and probably simplest type of balance. The next one we have asymmetrical balance. Asymmetrical balance means that we have different things on each side. So if we divided this in half, we'd have different things happening, but they balance each other. With asymmetrical balance, we do want a balance to be created between the two sides of the image. So we might, for example, have an image where we have a large object over here and then smaller objects sort of over here, but we have an overall balanced feel to it. The next one is radial balance. Radial balance means that you have balance around a central point. So if we do a dot right here, we'd have radial balance going around it. The target revolves around that central point and has symmetry. In the top portion here, we have an example of our next one, which is called crystalline balance. So here's another example of that. And that's when we have an element that repeats over and over again, like in this tessellation, throughout the image, creating balance and repetition that way. All right, so once we understand those concepts, we're ready to move on to the exercises here. For this first one, you're just going to start with an incomplete face. It's only going to be half of it, more or less like this. And your job is to just make it symmetrical by trying to copy a mirror image of what you've got there onto the other side of the face. It's a little bit tricky. Do your best. Maybe work in pencil. Feel free to erase and correct. I had to erase and correct a little bit. Good tip here. It might be handy for you to kind of, before you start, bring a center line up to work off of. That might help you to maintain symmetry. Like I said, it's a little tricky. You might also sneak in a ruler to help you figure out some of the distances here, like marking the width of the face over here, or how far out the ear is, or how wide the eyes go out. So if you want to use a ruler to help you make some guide marks, that would be totally acceptable and a smart idea, probably. There's only 4 exercises on this one. The next one here tends to kind of confuse people. It says use asymmetrical balance to make this an uneven fight. So I just want you to draw something smaller over here. Conversely, you could draw something bigger, but you don't really have room for it. If you want to try to balance the image by adding multiple small things over here, that would be fine. I drew a cat, an angry cat here, fighting this big hydra. So whatever you want to do, as long as it's kind of smaller than what we've got over here, you're all good. For this one, it says fill the wedges with the same design to create radial balance. I didn't really do that. I kind of broke my wedges down. I kind of repeated every 2 wedges. I don't necessarily have a problem with you doing that. The main thing we want to see is having symmetrical balance around this central point. Radial balance, sorry, around this central point. So it should match and repeat and have some sort of symmetry there. If you want to just do one wedge and then repeat that pattern, that's fine too. If you want to make patterns alternate, kind of like I did, you can do that. And then the last one here is you're going to repeat the same design in each box to create crystalline balance. So you're going to have a grid just to start with, and then you're going to fill each box in the grid with the same design. All right. If you want to, you can make one different to create emphasis. That's an idea we'll play with later on. But you can also just make them the same to establish that crystalline balance. All right, so that's all you need to know, just 4 different types of balance to kind of demonstrate each of them. And you are set. You're all good for the packet. Thanks.